Welcome to the Women's Metabolism MD podcast. I'm Dr. Milen Riobe. This is a space where we stop forcing the body and start understanding it. In the last episode, we talked about why women's metabolism is different and why so many women feel that their body stops responding to what worked before, despite them doing all the right things and following solid advice. Today, I want to talk about why that is. What I see in my practice is the woman who says, I've been to every doctor and I've tried everything and nothing sticks. Or they'll say, I felt better for a while, but then my symptoms came back. Or they'll say, my symptoms actually got worse. Many women are frustrated that their body is simply unpredictable. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. Because what's happening isn't random. One of the most confusing things for women is that their metabolism adapts differently than men, and modern living and the stress that comes with it poses a distinct and unique challenge to women's metabolisms across their life cycles, from puberty, reproductive age, perimenopause, straight into menopause. We're just different. We're built different. And understanding how our bodies adapt to those life changes and to the stressors of modern day living is critical for us to maintain our health. In fact, most women I work with are doing all the right things according to the one size fits all framework. And they're doing it mindfully and thoughtfully. They're changing their diet, they're eating better, they're resting more, they're exercising differently. They may do cleanses or detoxification programs. They're making these changes intentionally. But what's missing isn't effort. What's missing is context. Women need a different framework to understand how their bodies are adapting. Most women are making these decisions without fully understanding how their metabolism responds to change. So when something helps, they don't know why. When something backfires, they also don't know why, and they often think that they did something wrong. And when symptoms come back, despite all that effort, it's extremely frustrating. The body is not unpredictable. It's simply that the language that our bodies use to communicate with us is different. So when symptoms persist, this creates a very specific form of frustration. Women start to doubt their instincts. They start second guessing their decisions. They wonder if they're simply too sensitive or not disciplined enough, missing something. And over time, that uncertainty becomes exhausting. What I want you to hear is this: feeling stuck doesn't mean you've failed or done anything wrong. It means you've been making changes without a metabolic lens. Once you understand how your body adapts and what patterns it takes on, whether it runs hot or cold, whether it's inflamed and toxic or depleted, the past suddenly makes sense. Things that seemed random stop feeling random. And that's where real clarity begins. Dynamic metabolic types, or DMTs, are the way I describe how a woman's metabolism is adapting and causing the symptoms that she's experiencing. DMTs are not permanent, but you can stay stuck in one for months or even years if you don't quite know what to do to rebalance the metabolism and stabilize it again. A DMT, or a dynamic metabolic type, has nothing to do with what someone weighs. It's not a diagnosis. It's not a permanent identity. It's a pattern. Once you understand that pattern, everything starts to make sense. And this is why trial and error feels endless when you don't know what pattern you're operating in. One of the most confusing things for women is this: two women can have the exact same symptoms: fatigue, brain fog, weight gain, hormonal imbalances, and need completely different support plans. This is where trial and error can actually become dangerous. Let me give you a few examples. I've worked with women who have those symptoms, but their pattern reveals that they're too cold and inflamed and toxic. And this reveals why they have their symptoms. And it also reveals how to provide the body the support that it needs to resolve that pattern and consequently those symptoms. Another woman may have again the same symptoms: fatigue, brain fog, weight gain, but she may be hot and depleted. She requires a completely different support structure than the first woman who had the same exact symptoms. And in fact, if someone is cold and they're eating foods that might make them even colder, they're going to gain more weight and feel more tired. Whereas a woman who is on the warmer side, who is depleted, who eats what we call cooling foods and nourishes herself more, will actually feel better because she's working on the root causes of her particular symptoms by knowing her dynamic metabolic type. So both these women on the surface look very similar. They have the same symptoms, but metabolically, they're very different, and in fact, almost the opposite. So the solutions look very different for these two women. When the same advice is applied to both these women, one would improve and the other would crash. That's physiology. This is why I developed dynamic metabolic typing, or DMTs. Again, it's not a diagnosis, it's not a label, and it's not permanent. It's a pattern that describes how your body is adapting to chronic stress across life cycles. It describes how your body is responding right now to stress, inflammation, energy demands, and recovery capacities. What DMTs do is explain why nothing worked before and why your body stopped responding to what used to work before. You can be a cold dynamic metabolic type and then become too warm. And if you don't make the proper adjustments, your metabolism will go out of balance. Again, this is all adaptation on a metabolic scale. One woman I worked with had the dynamic metabolic type that we call the inflamed overachiever. She was always wired, never felt rested, always felt anxious, couldn't sleep well, was having night sweats, weight gain, brain fog, and exhaustion. She felt better when she moved around, but if she sat for too long, she felt much worse. She always felt warmer than everybody else. Couldn't explain why. Her body temperature was normal, she wasn't sick, she didn't have an infection, all her blood work was normal, no conditions were found, nothing was out of the ordinary, except that she knew she didn't feel well and that something was wrong. She just couldn't put her finger on what it was and how to resolve it. But once she knew her dynamic metabolic type, she was able to eat the right foods that could cool down her metabolism and also select the proper mechanisms for exercise that helped her improve the removal of inflammation and toxins that were building up in her body. She was also able to do a guided cleanse that allowed her body to fully remove the inflammation and toxins that had been trapped there, contributing to her symptoms. Within about 3 to 4 weeks, she was feeling significantly better. She could sit and focus on her work without feeling like she was going to fall asleep all the time. The brain fog lifted. Her body's improved capacity to remove toxins and to control inflammation allowed her to lose the stubborn 10 pounds that she was unable to get rid of. And she was able to continue to support her body as it adapted to life changes over time for long-term success. Once she understood her dynamic metabolic type, everything clicked. The issue wasn't a lack of discipline, it was simply misinterpretation. On the other end of the spectrum, there was another client of mine with a dynamic metabolic type we call tired and trying. She felt cold. She always had a sweater on. Her body temperature was actually lower than normal. It was about 97 degrees instead of the usual 98.6. She felt very depleted. She had brain fog and weight gain too. She felt better when she rested and worse when she exercised. In fact, she was so tired that she rarely exercised anymore, although she had been an athlete. She assumed that being more sedentary is why she started to gain weight, and so started to restrict her diet and tried fasting, which for someone with that dynamic metabolic type is actually the opposite of what she needed. And so she just felt worse and worse over time. Once she understood her dynamic metabolic type, that she needed warming foods, and that fasting was actually the opposite of what she needed, and that she actually needed to eat more. She started seeing results in about 3 weeks. The fatigue was lifting, her weight was dropping, the aches and pains were resolved, and her body temperature and her perception of being too cold were resolving as well. When the body's too cold, it can't circulate its energy as well. Things are just kind of sluggish when they're cold. You get aches and pains, fatigue, inflammation, and weight gain. So, knowing her dynamic metabolic type empowered her to know how to take care of her metabolism and her body throughout her life cycles as well for long term metabolic stability. She was able to resume exercising after she had restored her body long enough that her metabolism could pick up and start functioning properly again. Her metabolism wasn't inflamed like my first client. Her metabolism was so depleted that things were stuck, so she had the sensation of being inflamed when she actually wasn't. Again, same symptom category, opposite metabolic realities for both of these women. Without knowing these metabolic patterns, trial and error is almost impossible and keeps failing. They were able to realize they weren't doing anything wrong. Their bodies were not betraying them. The advice just didn't match their physiology. Understanding your metabolic patterns turned confusion into clarity. Clarity reduces stress, which all by itself helps your metabolism. This is why insight alone can be so healing. But insight is still just the first step. Knowing your dynamic metabolic type is step one. It explains why trial and error failed, why symptoms keep returning, why certain strategies help some, but not others. Understanding your pattern is the first step to knowing how to resolve it. In our next episode, I'll walk you through the DART method, the framework I use to take your dynamic metabolic type and apply it in a way that restores order, resets metabolism, and resolves symptoms. Today was about recognition. The next episode is about resolution. If you recognized yourself in today's episode, you've taken the first step, which is discovery. You're not behind schedule. You're right on time. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I appreciate you being here. And if you know a woman who could benefit from this information, please share our episode with her. I'll see you in the next episode.